I would have never been able to manifest $500,000 without changing my self-concept. Because in the year 2020, before my spiritual awakening, my self-concept was based on lack, scarcity, and as a result, I only attracted poverty. And nowadays, my self-concept is based on abundance, on being unlimited, on being rich and wealthy, and as a result, more and more wealth is flowing to me, and so many of my clients have experienced the same breakthrough. And that's why in today's video, I'm going to reveal the infinity framework of the abundant self-concept that made me and many of my clients go from making less than $1,000 a month to well over $20,000 a month. The biggest manifestation destroying traps that way too many students of Neville's work fall into, and countless practical examples of how I stepped into the new self-concept that I created because only practical advice leads to results. And keep in mind that this infinity framework of the abundant self-concept is in fact a closed framework, which means that every single building block of it is important so that you can go through the transformation from somebody who's struggling with money to somebody who lives in abundance. And that's why each and every point that I share with you is essential for your transformation. Now let's first have a look at what your self-concept actually is before we change it in a way so that more abundance, more opportunities, and more wealth can flow to you. Now, what if I told you that nothing in your physical reality will change until you change your self-concept? And I'm speaking from personal experience here because I tried, I really tried. I used affirmations and meditation and scripting and all kinds of other techniques, and I used them in vain because I didn't change my self-concept. And every day I wanted to be wealthy and I was begging the universe for money. At some point I was saying, universe, please just change my reality, change it. And the universe said to me, my son, you are still the same person. As long as you stay the same person, your reality stays the same. By trying to manifest without changing your self-concept, you are basically trying to boil water without heat. And that's why we have to change that. In fact, in Your Faith is Your Fortune, Neville Goddard says, change your conception of yourself and you will automatically change the world in which you live. But what is the self-concept? Well, there are hundreds of different definitions online, so it won't hurt if I throw my own definition in the mix. Your self-concept is the combination of your beliefs, feelings, and perceptions about yourself and others. We could also say that your self-concept is what you see when you look into the mirror, if you could see within yourself. And no, I'm not talking about your organs. I mean, yeah, maybe that was not the best metaphor, but in Your Faith is Your Fortune, Neville Goddard also says the following words. Stop trying to change the world, since it is only the mirror. Man's attempt to change the world by force is as fruitless as breaking a mirror in the hope of changing his face. Leave the mirror and change your face. Leave the world alone and change your conceptions of yourself. The reflection then will be satisfactory. It's simple. If you want to be a millionaire, you have to see a millionaire when you look into the mirror. But it's not enough to simply label yourself as a millionaire and to get a tattoo on your forehead that says millionaire. By the way, please don't do that. We have to dive a little bit deeper. True change in your physical reality in regards to abundance can only happen if you embrace the infinity principle of the abundant self-concept with its 8 pillars. And now we're gonna jump right into pillar number 1. Ignoring what I'm about to share with you as part of the first pillar of the infinity principle of the abundant self-concept will not only make it so much harder for you to manifest, but it will also turn your life into one miserable hell. And yes, I am really that German that I combined the teachings from Neville Goddard and Dr. Joe Dispenza and all kinds of other teachers. I'm all about efficiency and effectiveness, and on top of that, while I was watching the intensive workshop from Dr. Joe Dispenza before I signed up on my very first of 3 week-long advanced retreats that I already attended, I had an incredible epiphany. And I was sitting in front of my TV like this. What did he say there? I have to watch that again. Rewind, rewind. I gotta watch that again. Rewind again. This is amazing. There is one segment in this workshop where Joe Dispenza mentions that if you create from the energy of love, that's when you create a life you love. And in this moment, I had a huge realization about Neville Goddard's self-concept. It literally hit me. Oh. It hit me so hard that my brain was dancing salsa, because if you make this realization, you can easily change your self-concept. And that's that if you fall in love with your life, if you truly feel a love for your life, the universe has to give you everything that makes you love your life in the first place, including the abundance that you truly want. And that's why pillar number 1 of the infinity framework of the abundant self-concept is to fall in love with your life. To do everything in your power to fall in love with your life, because then all the abundance and even the relationship you want, and even if you want to manifest DJ Khaled, another one, you can manifest all of this, because all these things are a part of you being in love with life, and all these elements make you love your life more. And that's why Neville Goddard says in Your Faith is Your Fortune, the invitation of the scriptures to be absent from the body and present with the Lord is not given to a select few. It's a sweeping call to all mankind. The body from which you are invited to escape is your present conception of yourself, with all of its limitations, while the Lord with whom you are to be present is your awareness of being. And that's the first limitation you have to escape from, the limiting feeling of not being fully in love with your life. Because if you truly immerse yourself with the power of using affirmations, self-love affirmations to be more precise, and with the power of asking yourself, what would it truly feel like to be in love with life? And you then step by step fall in love with your life. And every day you make time to do something that makes you love your life more. Your self-concept will inevitably change. And I know that 99.99% of people who work with Neville Goddard's teachings on improving their self-concept don't even think about the power of love, the power of loving your life. But I know from my own experience, and so many of my clients have made the same experience, that if you allow yourself to fall in love with your life, you will look at yourself in the mirror completely different, and you will see somebody who is completely different, somebody who creates from the energy of love, and therefore everything, including the abundance that you want, will easily flow to you. And that's why Neville Goddard said the following words: your present level of consciousness will only be transcended as you drop the present state and rise to a higher level. You rise to a higher level of consciousness by taking your attention away from your present limitations and placing it upon that which you desire to be. And once you allow yourself to fall in love with your life, you send the signal out to the universe that you are now completely ready for all the abundance you want, because the abundance is a part of you loving your life, and therefore the abundance has to find you, and the bridge of incidence has to be built, because somebody who is truly abundant also truly loves his or her life. And now I want to ask you a very powerful question, but also a very uncomfortable question. Are you responsible for the amount of money you have in your bank account? And if you now say, yeah, well, maybe, but not that much, then we still have some work to do. And I know how it feels. I know how it feels to not want to accept responsibility for your creation. back in the year 2020, when I had my rough spiritual awakening, when I was lying sick in bed and when my bank account was completely empty, I didn't want to take responsibility. I didn't want to face the truth that I as a creator created this. I might have not created it consciously, but unconsciously. And yes, after having worked for years 10 to 12 hours every day with nothing to show for, I was very, very desperate in this situation, and still I didn't want to accept that it was me who was responsible for it. But you can simply say on this journey, yeah, you know, I manifested this amazing outcome, this amazing experience, these thousands of dollars in my bank account, but when I look back at this experience, I didn't manifest that. But the truth is that you can't be lukewarm. Either you are hot or you're cold. Either you go all in and you accept your power and your responsibility as a creator, or you refuse to accept it. But the only way for you to change your self-concept to an abundant self-concept is to accept full responsibility as a creator. And that's why Neville Goddard said, "Chance or accident is not responsible for the things that happen to you, nor is predestined fate the author of your fortune or misfortune. Your subconscious impressions determine the conditions of your world." That's why pillar number 2 of the infinity framework of the abundant self-concept is to 100% fully and completely accept your power as a creator. Because your abundant self-concept has already made this choice. The question is, have you? Now, what if I told you that the only way for me or for you or for anybody to manifest large amounts of money is to go on a strict diet? And yes, some diets are more effective than others, and everybody intuitively knows, even though a lot of people don't want to accept it, that if your diet consists only of fast food and cake and all kinds of other food that is not healthy, then losing weight and staying in shape might not be that easy. The next pillar of the infinity framework of the abundant self-concept consists of 2 words. And these 2 words are mentioned by Neville Goddard quite often, and they contributed to me manifesting $500,000. And these words are mental diet. And here's what Neville Goddard says about mental diets. Talking to oneself is a habit everyone indulges in. We could no more stop talking to ourselves than we could stop eating and drinking. All that we can do is control the nature and the direction of our inner conversations. Most of us are totally unaware of the fact that our inner conversations are the causes of the circumstances of our life. We talk to ourselves all day, every day through our thoughts, and according to scientific studies, we think approximately 60,000 thoughts every day, between 12,000 and 60,000. And 80% of these thoughts are negative and 95% of them are repetitive. And that's why if you let these unconscious thoughts that you're thinking all day long win, abundance can't flow to you. But if you consciously think new thoughts, that's when abundance can flow to you. And that's why Neville Goddard says this about changing the way you talk to yourself. A man's mental conversations attracts his life. As long as there is no change in his inner talking, the personal history of the man remains the same. To attempt to change the world before we change our inner talking is to struggle against the very nature of things. Change the way you talk to yourself and your life will change. I mean, nowadays, this is not just a theoretical concept for me. I know it, I've experienced it. And that's why you always have to remember the following sentence. Every thought is an affirmation, and every affirmation is a thought, which means every thought that you're thinking unconsciously is affirming and then again reaffirming a certain state, if you want it or not. And at the same time, every affirmation that you're thinking consciously is also a thought that you put first in your conscious mind and then in your subconscious mind. And I'm at the moment experimenting with the thought I am a millionaire. I call myself a millionaire. I repeat throughout the day, I am a millionaire. I feel myself into this thought while I speak to myself, and I know that I will attract a reality in which I am a millionaire. And that's why Neville Goddard said the following words in his lecture about mental diets. What is your aim? Does your inner talking match it? It must, you know, if you would realize your aim. So observe your thoughts carefully. Observe your thoughts and ask yourself throughout the day, am I thinking poorly and create poverty, or am I thinking abundantly and create abundance? Because poor thoughts create a poor life, and abundant thoughts create an abundant life. And now I want to take the concept of the mental diet to the next level by focusing on pillar number 4 of the infinity framework of the abundant self-concept. Be honest, how do you feel when you go to bed right after you've watched a crime TV show with murder, betrayal, and suffering? It took me a long time to understand that creating a new self-concept with mental diets is not just about the thoughts that are already floating around in my mind, and it's not just about the thoughts that I'm actively putting in my mind. It's also about the thoughts that I'm passively putting in my mind by, for example, watching TV. Because when I think about me, which I never do, but just as an example, me watching a horror movie, I would not feel aligned with abundance, with feeling unlimited, with feeling as if my wish was already fulfilled. Instead, I would feel like this. Oh yeah, I'm so abundant. I'm so in love with life. I hate to break it to you, but you will live what you watch. Every TV show you consume influences your self-concept because it puts new thoughts in your mind. Every song you listen to influences your self-concept because it puts, yes again, new thoughts in your mind. And even Dr. Joe Dispenza talked about this in one of the advanced retreats I went to, where he told this story about how his son convinced him to watch Game of Thrones, and he then said murder, betrayal, and oh my God, within the first couple of minutes, I don't want to live that. And this is a sentence that stuck with me. Don't watch what you don't want to live. And I know that a part of you wants to now say, no, that can't be true. Come on, what are you talking about? But if you're really honest with yourself, you know that it influences the way you think. You know it influences the way you feel. You know that what you consume either leads you further away from your abundant life or further towards your abundant life. And that's why Neville Goddard said, to assume a new concept of yourself is to that extent to change your inner talking or word of God, and is therefore putting on the new man. And I'm fortunate enough to now have met through several of my businesses and also through private networking events and private parties, all kinds of wealthy people, very abundant people, and none of them, and I really mean none of them, waste their time watching horror movies or watching TV shows about suffering, about sacrifice, about poverty, about, oh my God, everything is so bad. These people have one thing in common. They all consume content that is empowering, that is about abundance, that is about wealth. I mean, don't you think it will be so much easier for you to convince yourself that the person you look at in the mirror is abundant if all day long you consume business class flight reviews and documentaries about luxury living and documentaries about abundant people, and you read books from entrepreneurs, you read autobiographies and biographies from successful people. Now compare this with you watching horror movies, crime TV shows, reading the news all day long about separation, about suffering. Who will be more abundant in 1 year? Person A or person B? I already know the answer, and you will either find out the hard way or you will find it out in a way where you then thank me in 1 year from now that I gave you this tip and that I shared the sentence with you, don't watch what you don't want to live. Because if you then combine passively putting new empowering abundant thoughts in your mind by consuming content that is all about wealth, abundance and empowerment, with actively putting new thoughts in your mind, which is about you doing exactly what Neville Goddard says in the following words, then your life will change. Because here's what Neville Goddard says about the way you have to talk to yourself into abundance. The transformation of self requires that we meditate on a given phrase, a phrase which implies that our ideal is realized, and inwardly affirm it over and over and over again until we are inwardly affected by its implication, until we are possessed by it. And this feeling of being possessed by it leads me directly to the next pillar of the infinity framework of the abundant self-concept. And not doing what I'm about to share with you now as the next pillar of the infinity framework of the abundant self-concept will not only make it impossible for you to manifest large sums of money, but it will also turn you into a miserable human being. And I know it from personal experience, because in the year 2020, I had my spiritual awakening through a health issue. A doctor discovered a cyst in my bladder, and this cyst was then removed via a surgery, and I then developed severe nerve damage after the surgery. So bad that if I just put my boxer shorts on, I was screaming in pain. And back then I was angry. I was so angry at the world. I was angry at everybody. I was angry at the universe, until the universe told me, "You moron, this is not my fault. You did this to yourself." I was living in a constant state of, if I had known this sooner, I would have never done this to my body. And I lived in the same state when it comes to my abundance, or let's better say my lack of abundance back then. I was constantly thinking to myself, if I had only learned about manifesting sooner, I would have not made this choice, I would have not done this, I would be so wealthy right now. My emotional state back then can be perfectly described with this. The truth is that if you stay in this state of regret, the abundance you want can't come to you, because the wall of regret makes it impossible for you to jump over it in order to reach your abundant dream life. And Neville Goddard knew this, and that's why he said this. Do not waste one moment in regret, for to think feelingly of the mistakes of the past is to reinfect yourself. And that's why you have to let go of your past by loving it into a state of wholeness, because only then will you have the freedom to create a completely new self-concept. Because if you don't do that, then the feeling of regret will be dragging on into your future, and if you feel regret, you cannot create an abundant self-concept, and you cannot create an abundant future, because the feeling of regret is at war with the feeling of abundance. These are complete opposites. They are not in alignment whatsoever. But now you might be saying, Sebastian, hold on. How can I possibly love my past? How can I love it into a state of wholeness? By realizing that without the setbacks, without the negative experiences that you've had in your life, you would not be watching this video right now. And now you might be saying, oh, great, the only reason why I'm getting tortured by your German accent is because of my setbacks. Forget about it. But wait, not so fast, not so fast. It's about realizing that without these setbacks, without the negative experiences, without the losses that you've experienced, you would have not had your spiritual awakening. You would have most likely, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but you would have most likely not discovered the truth. You would have not discovered the secret that so many people don't discover in this lifetime, and that's that manifesting is real, that you are the creator. And this is what allowed me to let go of the past and to step into a completely new self-concept, into my abundant self-concept, because I realized that without the cyst in my bladder, without the nerve damage afterwards, without me struggling, I would have never realized that manifesting is the truth, that it is the biggest secret of all. I would have never stumbled upon this secret. I would have just continued to destroy myself, to destroy my body, to live in poverty, and to be completely clueless about the fact that I am the creator of my reality. The reason why you had your spiritual awakening is because of your experiences, not despite them. And what I'm about to share with you now is more than just a pillar of the infinity framework of the abundant self-concept. It's a way of life. It's a way of living your life. Because at some point during my manifestation journey, I realized something. I realized that we are all guided by emotions and we all make decisions based on emotions. You might say that you're making logical decisions, but the truth is you're always making decisions based on emotions. I mean, how many people have told you, you know, I decided to buy this car because it has 50 horsepower more than the other car, when in reality they wanted to have that car because of the emotions of driving it, of feeling cool with it, of feeling amazing and going rum rum rum, look at me, I'm so freaking amazing. That's why we make decisions, not out of logic. And on this journey I realized that no matter if we manifest a life full of despair or a life full of abundance, we are always guided by about 3 to 5 core emotions that create our reality. And in The Feeling is the Secret, Neville Goddard describes this principle in the following beautiful words. Emotional disturbances, especially suppressed emotions, are the causes of all disease. To feel intensely about a wrong without voicing or expressing that feeling is the beginning of disease, dis-ease in both body and environment. I mean, I've lived my life before my spiritual awakening in complete chaos, turmoil, stress, self-hate, and I had to change my 3 to 5 core emotions in order for me to change my self-concept and in order for me to then reach my abundant reality. At some point, even the universe was like, stop feeling these emotions, dude, just stop it, for F's sake. That's why Neville Goddard says in Your Faith is Your Fortune, all things are crystallized liquid light. The differentiation or infinity of expression is caused by the conceiver's desire to know himself. Your conception of yourself automatically determines the velocity necessary to express that which you have conceived yourself to be. And just like crystallized liquid light, your emotions are flowing through your body and flowing through your inner being, and they are creating who you are. They are creating your self-concept. And if you truly hold the desire to know yourself, you have to know your emotions, because your emotions create your life. So what emotions do you want to allow in the process of creating your life? That's why I now invite you to embrace pillar number 6 of the infinity framework of the abundant self-concept and to define 3 to 5 core emotions that build the emotional foundation of your new abundant self-concept. And my 3 core emotions for my abundant self-concept are as follows: abundance, a love for life, and freedom. What are yours? Let me know in the comments down below. Now, what if I told you that you're doing this whole abundant self-concept thing completely wrong if you're still wearing your sweatpants? Or, well, maybe your abundant self is wearing sweatpants. When I embarked on this journey of manifesting money, my bank account was completely empty, and that made it so much harder for me to feel abundant throughout the day. But I wanted to stay in the wish fulfilled. I wanted nothing more than to stay in the wish fulfilled all day long. And that's when I remembered. I remembered back then that I had this navy blue blazer that was tailor-made from Thailand for less than $100. And what I then did allowed me to feel myself every day into the abundant self, and I became it more and more because I was wearing that thing all the freaking time. Even though back then, because of my several health issues that I had after my surgery, my belly was so bloated that I almost couldn't fit in that navy blue blazer. On top of that, I had so much nerve damage that it was painful to even put it on, but I still did it. And even though nowadays I feel the most abundant when I wear a plain t-shirt or my linen shirts and my shorts and my beloved, yes, as a German I have to admit it, my beloved Birkenstocks, because this signals to me that I can live in any tropical country I want. Back then, my navy blue blazer was really helpful for me to get into this new self-concept. And yes, the only reason why I wear a t-shirt recording this video and not a linen shirt is because I have to iron that thing, but don't tell anybody. And that's why after you've watched this video, I invite you to look into the mirror and to ask yourself, does my abundant self look like this? Or what do I have to change about my appearance in order to be the perfect reflection of my abundant self? Because by you changing the way you dress, the way you stand, the way you look at yourself, and the way you present yourself, you are changing your self-concept. And then you will see a different person in the mirror, and therefore you will create a new reality. And what you can of course also do is to immerse yourself into a deep hypnosis or a guided meditation right in front of the mirror. And if you want to find out more about my audio program, to which I recently added a brand new bonus with more than 60, yes, more than 60 guided meditations and guided hypnosis files, you can click on the second link in the description or go to affirmationtomanifestation.com/mastery. So remember, by changing the appearance of the person who looks into the mirror, your outer reality can then reflect the change that you see in the mirror. And in Your Faith is Your Fortune, Neville Goddard says the following words: "Time is ever conditioned by man's conception of himself. Confidence in yourself, as determined by conditioned consciousness, always shortens the interval of time. If you were accustomed to great accomplishments, you would give yourself a much shorter interval in which to accomplish your desire than the man schooled in defeat." Confidence in myself. That's exactly what this navy blue blazer gave me back then. The confidence to accept my new abundant self-concept. So try it out. The mirror never lies. Unfortunately, all the steps that I shared with you in this video and all the different parts of the infinity framework of the abundant self-concept mean absolutely nothing if you don't do this. Because at the beginning of my manifestation journey, I was reading all the lectures from Neville Goddard. I was studying his work every day, but eventually I had to realize that unless I put his advice and the techniques into practice every single day, nothing will change for me. And that's why I invite you to embrace the last principle of the infinity framework of the abundant self-concept. I invite you to follow the principle of persistent repetition in order to turn a once abstract self-concept into who you truly are, which means every single day from Monday to Sunday, you can meditate and manifest to have sexy T-Rex hands or whatever it is that you want to manifest. And despite what some people believe about Neville Goddard's teachings, he was in fact a believer in repetition, just like the following quote proves. "If, however, you do not reach the point of satisfaction, repeat the action over and over again until you feel as though you touched it and virtue went out of you." So embody your new abundant self-concept every day, and your reality has to shift according to your new conception of yourself. And if you're ready to work with me on creating your abundant self-concept, which is exactly what we're gonna do in week number 3 of my one-on-one coaching program, the Abundance Reality Shift Coaching Program, you can click on the first link in the description or go to affirmationtomanifestation.com/abundance to find out more about the coaching program, to have a look at what awaits you in each of the individual coaching sessions. And I of course also invite you to have a look at all the bonus material that you get for free by joining the coaching program. And you might also want to watch the video testimonials from previous coaching clients. And of course, your self-concept is only the beginning, because I studied Neville Goddard's teachings for more than 5,000 hours. And if you're ready to discover all the amazing manifestation secrets that have helped me to create a life full of abundance, love, and unforgettable experiences, then I invite you to watch this video next.